If you've ever left a family gathering feeling somehow smaller than when you arrived, like your accomplishments suddenly don't matter, and your voice somehow got quieter throughout the evening, you're experiencing what Arthur Schopenhauer identified as one of humanity's cruelest paradoxes over 200 years ago. The people who are supposed to love us most are often the ones who make us feel the least. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this happens, and, more importantly, how to protect your inner flame from being dimmed by the very people who helped light it. Maybe you're the one who always gets the backhanded compliments at dinner. "Oh, you're finally doing well," with that subtle tone that suggests they never expected much from you anyway. Perhaps you've noticed how your family has this unique ability to find the one thing you're insecure about and somehow weave it into casual conversation. Or you might be asking yourself why you feel like you're constantly defending your choices to people who claim they just want what's best for you. This isn't just your experience, and you're not being oversensitive. Millions of people walk away from family interactions feeling drained, diminished, and somehow guilty for feeling diminished in the first place. It's this maddening cycle where the people who should be your biggest supporters become your harshest critics, often without even realizing they're doing it. Conventional psychology tells us about family dysfunction and toxic relationships, but it often misses the deeper philosophical truth about why this happens. It treats the symptoms, the hurt feelings, the boundary issues, the communication problems, but it doesn't explain the fundamental dynamic that creates these patterns. But what if I told you that Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's most penetrating philosophers, solved this exact puzzle over 2 centuries ago? His insights don't just explain why your family makes you feel small. They give you the power to see through the illusion and reclaim your sense of self, even while maintaining love for these complicated people who raised you. In the early 1800s, Schopenhauer observed something that modern psychology would later call family systems theory. He saw that families operate like small kingdoms, with invisible hierarchies and power struggles that everyone participates in, usually without realizing it. He noticed that the people closest to us often feel the most threatened by our growth, our success, and especially our independence. Schopenhauer developed what's known as the porcupine dilemma, a parable about how we hurt the ones we love simply by trying to get close to them. But he went deeper than this. He understood that families create what we might call identity prisons, fixed roles and expectations that keep everyone locked in familiar patterns, even when those patterns cause suffering. Today, we have terms like emotional enmeshment, narcissistic family systems, and invalidating environments. But Schopenhauer's approach goes deeper than contemporary therapy because he understood that this isn't just about communication skills or boundary setting. This is about fundamental forces in human nature: the unconscious drive to maintain power, the fear of being surpassed by those we love, and the tragic way we often diminish others in our attempt to feel secure ourselves. Schopenhauer's first insight was what he called the porcupine dilemma. Picture a group of porcupines trying to stay warm on a cold winter night. They need each other's warmth to survive, but every time they get close enough to share heat, their quills prick and hurt each other. So they move apart to avoid the pain, but then they get cold again. They spend the whole night moving closer for warmth, getting hurt, pulling apart, getting cold, and starting the cycle over again. Now, I know this sounds like a simple animal story, but what Schopenhauer discovered is profound. This is exactly what happens in families. But the quills aren't physical, they're emotional. Your family needs you close because you're part of their identity, their legacy, their sense of completeness. But the closer you get, the more your individual growth, your different choices, your unique path starts to prick their sense of who they think you should be. Here's what's so insidious about this. When your family makes those comments that make you feel small, They're not necessarily trying to hurt you. They're trying to pull you back to the safe distance where you're close enough to be part of the family system, but not so independent that you threaten their sense of control or their own identity. Think about it this way. Imagine your family identity is like a carefully arranged photograph. Everyone has their place, their role, their expected expression. When you start to grow, change, or step outside your assigned spot in the picture, it doesn't just affect you. It makes everyone else feel like the whole picture is suddenly out of focus. I know this is getting deep already. Let me give you a moment to process this. What Schopenhauer discovered is profound, and it's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about family love. Are you ready for the next revelation? Schopenhauer's second insight was about what he called the will to power, the unconscious drive in every human being to maintain dominance and control. Now, this doesn't mean your family is sitting around plotting to make you feel small. It's much more subtle and much more unconscious than that. Think of it like this. Imagine your sense of self is like a flame, and every person in your family also has their own flame. In a healthy dynamic, everyone's flames would make the room brighter. But what Schopenhauer observed is that many people unconsciously believe there's only so much light to go around. So when your flame starts burning brighter, when you succeed, when you grow, when you become more confident, part of them feels like their own flame is being dimmed by comparison. This is why your family might respond to your good news with comments like, "Don't get too confident," or "Remember where you came from," or the classic, "Well, we'll see how long this lasts." They're not celebrating your growing flame. They're unconsciously trying to trim it back down to a size that feels safe to them. Here's the part that might be hard to accept. This often comes from the people who love you most. Your mother, who sacrificed for you, might feel threatened when you start making choices she never had the courage to make. Your father, who worked hard to provide for you, might feel diminished when you achieve things he only dreamed of. It's not that they don't love you, it's that your growth triggers their own unhealed wounds about their unlived potential. Schopenhauer saw that families often develop what we might call diminishment rituals, regular patterns of bringing each other back down to size. These might look like bringing up your past failures when you share current successes, finding the flaw in every achievement. But what about comparing you unfavorably to others? Your cousin would never. Minimizing your struggles. Others have it worse. Questioning your judgment. Are you sure that's a good idea? The tragedy is that these rituals masquerade as care, concern, or keeping you humble. But what they really do is maintain the family's unconscious hierarchy, where no one is allowed to rise too far above the collective comfort zone. This next part explains the most painful aspect of family dynamics. Take a deep breath, because understanding this will change everything. Schopenhauer's third insight was about what modern psychology would later call projection, but he understood it in a much deeper way. He saw that families often function like mirrors, but not the kind that show you clearly. More like funhouse mirrors that distort and reflect back the family's collective fears and unlived dreams. Here's how it works. Imagine each person in your family has a psychological basement filled with all the things they don't like about themselves, their failures, their fears, their unlived potential, their secret shames. Schopenhauer understood that instead of dealing with what's in their own basement, people often become experts at spotting similar things in others, especially family members. So when your father criticizes your impractical career choice, he might be projecting his own regret about not pursuing his dreams. When your mother questions your relationships, she might be reflecting her own unresolved romantic disappointments. When your siblings compete with you or diminish your achievements, they might be wrestling with their own feelings of inadequacy. The cruel irony is that the qualities your family criticizes in you are often the very qualities they wish they had developed in themselves. Your independence might threaten their conformity. Your creativity might highlight their practical compromises. Your emotional awareness might make them uncomfortable with their own emotional numbness. Schopenhauer called this the shadow dance of families. Everyone is dancing around their own shadows, the parts of themselves they can't accept. By focusing on those same qualities in others, you become the screen onto which they project their internal movies about success, failure, love, and worthiness. This is why family criticism often feels so particularly cutting. It's not just that they disagree with your choices, it's that they're unconsciously using you to wrestle with their own unresolved internal conflicts. You're not just being judged, you're being used as a mirror for their own self-judgment. Now, I know this has been a lot to take in. Schopenhauer's insights can feel overwhelming at first because they're so much deeper than what we usually hear about family dynamics. But this depth is exactly what's going to set you free. Are you ready to learn how? Schopenhauer's final insight was the most liberating. Once you understand these unconscious patterns, you can choose not to participate in them. He called this moving from blind will to conscious observation. Instead of being a victim of family dynamics, you become a philosopher of your own experience. Think of it like this. Imagine you're watching a play where everyone is acting out their assigned roles: the worried mother, the critical father, the competitive sibling, the disappointed grandparent. For most of your life, you've been on stage with them, playing your assigned role of the child who needs to prove themselves worthy of love and approval. But Schopenhauer's approach lets you step into the audience. You can watch the play without being consumed by it. You can see the other actors playing their roles without taking their performances personally. You can appreciate the drama without letting it determine your sense of self-worth. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means developing what Schopenhauer called compassionate detachment. You can love your family while understanding that their comments about you say more about their internal world than about your actual value. You can care about their feelings while refusing to let their unconscious projections define your reality. Here's what this looks like practically. When your mother makes that comment about your life choices, instead of defending yourself or feeling hurt, you might think, there's her anxiety about security speaking. When your father questions your judgment, instead of doubting yourself, you might recognize that's his regret about his own unexpressed potential. Schopenhauer understood that true freedom comes not from changing your family, which is impossible, but from changing your relationship to their unconscious patterns. You stop being a participant in their internal drama and become a loving observer of it. The most beautiful part of this philosophy is that it often improves your relationships. When you stop taking their diminishment personally, you stop reacting defensively. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you stop giving them opportunities to question it. When you understand their behavior as unconscious patterns rather than personal attacks, you can respond with the kind of calm confidence that actually commands respect. Okay, I need you to stay with me here because what I'm about to share might be difficult to accept, but it's the key to your freedom. Vidada. So how do you apply Schopenhauer's insights to your actual family interactions? Here are 3 micro-specific practices you can start today. Step 1. When someone in your family makes a diminishing comment, pause for exactly 3 seconds before responding. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, what are they trying to control or manage in themselves by saying this to me? This tiny pause shifts you from reactive participant to conscious observer. Your mother says, "Are you sure you should be spending money on that?" Instead of immediately defending your purchase or feeling guilty, pause and think, she's managing her own anxiety about financial security. Then respond from calm understanding rather than defensive reaction. Step 2. When you feel that familiar shrinking feeling around family, identify what quality they're criticizing and ask, how might this quality represent something they wish they had more of. This helps you see their criticism as information about their internal world, not truth about your worth. If they criticize your selfishness for setting boundaries, recognize that they might be struggling with their own inability to prioritize their needs. Your boundary setting isn't actually selfish, it's highlighting their difficulty with self-care. Step 3. Choose one specific diminishing pattern in your family and decide exactly how you'll respond differently next time. Don't try to change them, just change your participation in the pattern. If family dinners always involve comparing you to your siblings, prepare a simple response. I'm happy for siblings' success, and I'm also happy with my own path. Then change the subject. Don't justify, don't compete, don't defend, just redirect. Start today by practicing the observer's pause in your next family interaction. This week, begin identifying projection patterns. Over the next month, implement one loving boundary at a time. The key is patience with yourself and compassion for your family's unconscious patterns, while refusing to let those patterns determine your self-worth. So what did Schopenhauer teach us about family dynamics? 3 profound insights. First, families hurt us while trying to love us because closeness inevitably creates friction, the porcupine dilemma. Second, our growth often triggers others' unconscious will to power, making them feel threatened by our expanding flame. And most importantly, their criticisms are mirrors, reflecting their own unhealed wounds and unlived potential, not accurate assessments of our worth. This is why Schopenhauer's approach succeeds where conventional family therapy often falls short. While therapy focuses on communication skills and boundary setting, philosophical understanding gives you the power to see through the illusion entirely. You move from being a victim of family dynamics to being a loving observer of unconscious human patterns. If Schopenhauer's insights into family dynamics resonated with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our community of philosophical healers who understand that the deepest wounds require the deepest wisdom. Tell me in the comments, which of Schopenhauer's insights hit you the hardest? The porcupine dilemma, the will to power in families, or the projection mirror? And what aspect of family shadow work would you like me to explore next? Your philosophical healing journey requires multiple perspectives, and I'm here to guide you through each one.